Jesus Christ!
I don't know how to protect you this time.
The Conjuring: Last Rites is the latest horror flick to hit theaters. The film is directed by Michael Chaves, who had previously directed both The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, and The Curse of La Llorona, a spin-off film within the Conjuring universe. Now, those two films are, in my personal opinion, some of the lower points in this overall franchise, but because this movie is listed as the last Conjuring entry into this franchise and the last time we would see both Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, well, I got excited about this movie, and I had to put it on my top 10 most anticipated movies list of 2025 because I'm a huge fan of the Conjuring universe. Of course, that first Conjuring movie came out in 2013. I saw it in theaters, and to this day, it is one of the most scary experiences I've had in a movie theater. I love that movie. The tension, the story, the characters, all of it worked perfectly for me, and so forever, I will watch a Conjuring franchise movie, and I will get excited anytime I'm going to see Ed and Lorraine Warren on the big screen. So last night I went and saw The Conjuring: Last Rites. Let's do the review.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
So The Conjuring: Last Rites once again brings back Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren going on their final paranormal investigation. And this movie, of course, is based on the real-life events of the real-life Ed and Lorraine Warren on their final investigation, which involved a haunting in Pittsburgh with a family known as the Smurl family, a family of 8 living in a home, everything seemingly going okay, when they bring home an antique mirror for one of their daughters, and then that mirror ends up bringing in these entities, these spirits, and maybe even a demonic presence into their home, terrorizing this family, which would once again bring in Ed and Lorraine Warren and their daughter Judy, because their daughter Judy is actually attached to this mirror way more than anyone realizes. And that is the best synopsis that I can give you for The Conjuring: Last Rites. If that sounds like a fun time, if you love the Conjuring universe, well then you should go check this movie out on the big screen. It is playing in theaters now. Now I am going to get into my positives and my negatives for this film here in a second, but before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content on my channel, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for The Conjuring: Last Rites.
We've been waiting so patiently for you.
My first positive for this movie is going to be Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga in their roles of Ed and Lorraine Warren, because I honestly don't think I've ever seen any other couple on screen with better chemistry. And I'm talking about going all the way back to the first Conjuring film. Sure, it's fun to watch them go on their paranormal investigations together, but these two have a great on-screen chemistry together that I don't believe I've seen matched by anybody else. Every single time they're in a film together as this couple of Ed and Lorraine Warren, I buy it 100%. And they both give great performances as an older version of Ed and Lorraine Warren in this film, and I think they do a great job with it. And my other positive for this movie is going to be the great send-off that we get for Ed and Lorraine Warren, giving us a final conclusion to their storyline in a very sweet way. You see the two of them dancing at the end of this film at an event that I won't go into, but in that event you also get cameos from other characters that have been in this franchise at this event, and that's a really nice way to show all the good that these two have done over the years, having those people not only be in this movie but be at the end of their story, sort of being there because of the good that the Warrens have done. And I think it's a great send-off for these characters, while also setting up how we could get future installments into this franchise with their daughter Judy and their son-in-law. I thought there was a lot they did in those last moments that really worked well for me, and I love a great send-off, and that's what this movie did. It gave these characters that I really have loved over the years a great send-off. Unfortunately, that's where my positives end. Now we have to get into my negatives, and my first negative for this movie is going to be the incredibly messy story that this movie gave us. You have this family being terrorized by this haunted mirror. You have the Warrens somehow connected to this haunted mirror, but dealing with retirement and not wanting to get back into the game because Ed has heart problems. And then in the middle of those two storylines, you have the character of Judy, who has her own storyline connection to this mirror, to this family, to her parents, and her boyfriend now becoming her fiance. So you've just got all of these storylines, and when they get pushed together, they don't mesh very well, and the whole story feels a bit messy. Building on that negative with my next negative, on top of the messy storyline, you don't actually get to see Ed and Lorraine Warren doing their thing with the paranormal investigation portion until the third act of this movie, which makes them feel like background characters in their final movie. Like, this movie should have focused on them front and center doing their paranormal investigation, but instead you deal with other characters for most of this film, and by the third act they're like, all right, now Ed and Lorraine Warren are gonna do their thing. And again, they just felt like background characters, so the movie was messy, and then it didn't really feature Ed and Lorraine Warren doing what we love watching them doing for most of the movie. My next negative for this movie is going to be the very weak evil entity that is the main evil entity of this movie. And what I mean by that is that I keep calling it evil entity because I don't know what it was. There was something inside or possessing this evil haunted mirror, and anytime you messed with this mirror, it would start doing evil stuff, but they never explained it. They never gave the evil thing inside of it a name. It was just an evil mirror. And that's really weak if you look at the other Conjuring entries, because the first movie had the demonic witch, the second movie had Valak, which ended up getting a Nun spin-off franchise because people loved that evil entity so much. And then in the third movie, of course, you had real life people doing witchcraft. At least that was something we could anchor ourselves to. But in this film, the evil ghosts and spirits that are in this house are actually being controlled by this haunted mirror, and we never get to find out what the haunted mirror is, what the evil entity is, and it just ends up feeling weak. When the end scene is Ed and Lorraine Warren attacking a mirror, it's like, well, it's a mirror. I feel like we've seen this done before, and you're not giving us anything behind the mirror. I fully expected something to crawl out of this mirror and be like, oh, that's what it was. But we never got that. Instead, you just get generic mirror versus the Warrens. And for a final entry, I'm sorry, but that's weak. Which leads me to my final negative of this film, and that is that they seem to trade real tension and scares for cheap jump scares. This movie has so many jump scares in it, and some of them are effective, some of them worked for me, and if they were effective and they worked for me and they were well placed, this would 100% be in my positives like I do for other horror movies that have jump scares. But this movie uses jump scare after jump scare after jump scare to replace the tension and scariness that we've felt from other Conjuring films. So it ends up feeling kind of cheap. Like when I get jump scared for the 50th time halfway through the film and not much is going on because the Warrens aren't even involved, it all feels cheap. Overall, I was very disappointed by this movie. I wanted so much more out of Ed and Lorraine Warren's final paranormal investigation, but this movie ended up just feeling like a generic haunted house with a generic haunted mirror. I know this is based off of the real life final paranormal investigation of Ed and Lorraine Warren, but if you had told me that the studio had this generic script with a generic haunted house feeling and they just shoehorned the Warrens into this adventure, I would completely believe that, because that's what it feels like. So would I recommend this movie to people? Well, I'll say this. If you're a big fan of Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga like I am, then yeah, go see this movie on the big screen. I think you'll get just as much enjoyment out of their performances that I got. But if you're not a big fan of the Conjuring franchise, or you could wait for this one on streaming, then I would recommend that, because I think you'll have just as much fun watching this at home than you would in a theater. But guys, as always, those are just my opinions, because that's my review for The Conjuring Last Rites. Have you guys had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where we agree or disagree. I love hearing your thoughts on movies. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of my The Conjuring Last Rites review. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Even though the movie was a bit disappointing, it was still really fun for me to kick off the Halloween 2025 spooky season with a horror movie. And as you can see behind me, I've got my horror movie posters up back there. I'm very excited to share so much horror content with you guys this upcoming Halloween season. In the meantime, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got all of my horror movie reviews right there, and I've got all of my 2025 movie reviews right there.